Do they move on to another location? So, yeah, that's something I was always kind of wondering myself in the back of my mind is where do they go from there?
I don't know, but I got 3 open chat lines right now, and somebody just said that it's always somebody out there is going to come up with a question that, it's kind of hard to answer. The guy says, Jim says, hey, on The Walking Dead, how come their gas never goes stale in their cars? Well, I had thought about that myself. I mean, gas goes flat after a certain amount of time. So you'd think after a couple of years, that gas wouldn't even start a motor. So but you don't supposed to think about those things.
Well, that's a fantastic question. Cause I mean, again, that's, me being the logical person that I am, I always wonder what if this happens, what if that, and you're right. I mean, the fuel consumption, I mean, unless they have some sort of distillery or something that can make fuel, or they have found a way to convert things to diesel or biofuel, I don't know how that works. I mean, it's amazing how they just find this old, Cadillac sitting on the side of the road, and they pour a little bit of gas into it, and they fiddle under the hood, and boom, they've got a nice ride.
Yeah, and the battery
starts right up.
The battery's still
the
good.
Tires aren't dry rotted or anything. It's like somebody out there is maintaining, the cars out there, but who? Is the question.
Well, diesel.
That's a fantastic question. I'm glad that somebody else has noticed that.
Well, one thing too, I will tell you this too. Like on the Fear Dead, they had that one diesel rig they were in on the last episode I was watching. That's another thing. Diesel is really bad because I used to have a huge motorhome, RV. Diesel, and I let it sit for about 6 months. You know what the diesel turned into? Gel.
And there's really, which again, I think that's why that a lot of these places are looking at alternative like biofuels and things, because they don't gel up and they don't solidify, I guess, as fast. And and you would think that they would run across an engineer or something at some point in the show, or come up with some sort of explanation as to how they are able to get these cars up and running. I mean, that there has to be somebody out there that, is figuring this out somehow. Maybe if they have some sort of a airtight container that the fuel can, which obviously you can't keep fuel in an airtight container, but, there has to be something, that keeps them going. But, and I guess that's kind of where, you're not supposed to really think about that. You're supposed to focus on the survival aspect, but again, I mean, a lot of people have questions, how they grow food that fast? I mean, people eat, daily. So, if you have a small little garden here and there, that's not going to be enough to feed, 30 or 40 people. And, that, again, that was always one of those questions is, how does that work exactly? But I guess they, and of course with the action, I think, it seems like the action's kind of dying down a little bit with the actual zombies, and it's more of, us versus them mentality in terms of like with Negan and the crew. I guess they're trying to, kind of deter the viewer from thinking about that kind of stuff. At least in my opinion, anyway. Well,
I don't ever think they use the zombies to the right potential. I mean, if you go like to the Fear of the Living, of the Night of the Living Dead, or go any of those series, I mean, the zombies just had so much more impact. Maybe they weren't so gory looking, they had a lot of white makeup on and looked pale and kind of walked like they had something, But the thing is, it really got you into it. And something is this missing, at least my opinion, in The Walking Dead, where you watch it and it, you don't get scared with the zombies. You don't get the feeling because the zombies like come and go so fast that you just can't get into it. And, there's no plot for the zombies. They need to sit back and realize they need more of a plot for the zombies, too, to make it more interesting.
You're exactly right. Because, like, if you've seen Day of the Dead, which was 1985, another George Romero film, was that claustrophobic feeling that movie give you. At least with me, it felt claustrophobic. I mean, these people were trapped underground somewhere in the Florida Keys. There's a small band of people. They're at each other's throats. there's the living dead are everywhere. I mean, everywhere. And when they first go to the first major city they go to, they start calling out for help, and they're greeted with, hundreds of thousands of zombies. That gives you a fear of claustrophobia. And like I said, and I think, that's kind of where the other Walking Dead, there were a few episodes where there was mass amounts of walkers, but I didn't get that claustrophobic feeling from that because, again, they can just run to another location somewhere. Whereas, Day of the Dead, they're trapped. They have a helicopter, but who gets to decide and choose the 4 people they get to escape while the rest of them, die. Even Land of the Dead actually was still, even being a modern film, was still fairly claustrophobic. Again, these people were trapped in a city, a walled city, basically. And the zombies are smarter, I guess, in a sense, and they're starting to evolve, and they eventually track them down and meet and beat them at their own game. So, but yeah, it doesn't seem like The Walking Dead it doesn't seem like there is, it doesn't seem as action packed. It seems like it's not The Walking Dead anymore. It's Rick versus Negan. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, and that's what I think where it's lost its direction. I don't know. That's just my feeling. I was really into it the first couple of years, and I'll be honest with you, I very seldom watch it anymore because I can miss like 4 episodes and turn it back on, and pretty much there it is. But it's just lacking something, and I don't know. They're really good with the makeup with the zombies, but like I said, the plot isn't there anymore, and the excitement. I'm trying to remember which one was it where they had a scientist. They were underground, like in a base, and the zombies were all around it, trying to get through the fence. They had the helicopter. That's the one I think you were talking about. But at least they had that one zombie that the doctor who kind of went crazy was trying to make the zombie where it won't eat people.
Oh, in Day of the Dead, there was Dr. Logan, or as they affectionately called him, Dr. Frankenstein.
Yeah,
was trying to domesticate the zombie, trying to, I guess, keep them from eating him, or anybody else, I guess. The original script I actually have laying around somewhere. There actually was an original script that was wrote to where the zombies were trained. They actually could use weaponry, and they were used as sort of like guards for the military, and which I thought was interesting. It was an interesting outtake of what the film actually turned into, as opposed to what it was initially it was going to be. And a lot of people, were like, a lot of my friends, especially that are into horror, especially into zombies, were kind of like, wow, this was drastically different than what was actually shot. And, I think at one point in time, Mr. Romero wanted to maybe look at fleshing that out and then actually making that another film, but I don't think it ever saw fruition, just because, the whole Bub was a lovable, smart zombie. I think Big Daddy was to an extent, but I think Bub was lovable. He was almost childlike. So to try to put him up against trained military zombies that use machine guns and everything, it was kind of like, it was a bit far-fetched,
Oh, yeah.
Bub is almost like a puppy, I know it sounds kind of silly to reference something so cute to something so gruesome, but he was almost like had a childlike innocence to be a zombie. I think it's why he has such a large fan base. I actually bought a Bub mask from Bump in the Night Studios, and when I posted it on Facebook, everybody was like, I love Bub. Bub's one of my favorite zombies. He's just, and just people just rant and raved about how awesome Bub was.
Well, he showed compassion too. That was kind of unique in that movie where, he showed a little bit of compassion there. And I also liked how he would salute too, and it compared to all the other zombies.
Well, and funny enough, they actually, and I'm touching back on the comic books here because I'm a big comic book nerd, but they had actually released a a couple of comic books based around the Romero universe. Dawn of the Dead was pretty much strictly almost based on the movie. I mean, there wasn't much of a deviation from that. But the Night of the Living Dead and Day of the Dead, they had, I guess, extension comics that explained things in those particular universes. And one of them, in the Day of the Dead, there was actually a comic called Rise of Bub, and it actually explained who Bub was before he became Bub, what happened, why, how he died, and how he ended up in the complex. And it was really, really awesome, because Bub was actually an ex-soldier, which obviously from the saluting and knowing how to use the Colt 45 there, but it actually explained he was trying to rescue his daughter and was bitten, and it was really a phenomenal comic. I mean, it makes you love Bub even more, knowing the hell he went through to get to his family, and ultimately what ended up happening to him. And another one that actually, I had always had a conspiracy theory about Day of the Dead. I always wondered if the people, they say there were people surviving in that city, were they living on the rooftops? Maybe, possibly. So there's actually a prelude comic to Day of the Dead that actually shows people that have made small communities on the rooftops of the city, and they move back and forth through crudely made bridges, and they camp out on the roofs to stay away from the zombies. And in order to make supply runs, they actually will send somebody down to the lower floors to draw the zombies away from, say, the building they want to hit. And they'll run downstairs and grab supplies, and that's their bartering system. They, one side goes one day or 1 week, and the other side goes another. So that was something I was completely thrilled with. I was like, wow, somebody actually thinks along the same lines that I do about this.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, I have discussions about that all the time on the Romero movies about, like, what if this, what if that, could this possibly have happened? And, and it really sparks a lot of people's interest, because they're like, I never thought of that. So it's always a good topic of discussion.
Well, you know what I do find about the zombie movies? Like we gone through a stage, right, of horror movies. And then from the horror movies, it kind of faded out for a while. And then we went into Westerns. Then we went into cops, or actually cops and robbers. Then we went into war movies, back into Westerns, back into cop type of movies. Now we're into zombies. And it seems like we've been in the zombies now for a long time compared to, the other. And I'm just, like I said, I just don't know if they could carry it off another year or two, let alone, 10 years. And that's where, I don't know. I think people are going to get burned out way, probably in the next year or two, unless they come up with some real fresh new ideas and come up with a lot better plot.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a thing where, it's kind of a gray area for me. I mean, I love zombies, but at the same time, it seems like everything's been played and done before. And of course, the Italians always seem to be, they seem to be fond of their zombie movies. And if I'm sure, growing up in the 70s and 80s, that Italians pretty much carried the zombie, the zombie genre on their backs there for a while with a lot of the films they came out with, Burial Ground and Hell of the Living Dead and City of the Walking Dead, which incidentally I think is it's arguably one of the first running zombie movies that existed, like the fast zombies that we touched upon. A lot of people think Return of the Living Dead is actually the fast zombie, but I believe it was Nightmare City or City of the Walking Dead. So, but I think the Italians really, kind of carried it there for a while. And I think, with, Robert Kirkman breathing fresh life into it with the Walking Dead comic, and then the show came out, a lot of these amateur directors and low budget and indie directors, I still see some pretty awesome ideas out there. Every once in a while, I find an indie film, zombie film that really is like, I'm like, wow, that's original, or that's, something that I've not seen done a billion times.